Bet you thought you'd never see this game again. Hytale is a game I've reviewed relatively recently, about 6 months ago to be a little more precise, and since that time I said I might be returning to this game to make more than one content piece, and I still stand by that. I genuinely enjoyed my time with the game, and I'm looking forward to seeing what this game brings to the table. However, I was waiting some time before I did more videos as the game was fresh and a lot had to be done to still make it something I deemed worthy of frequent visiting, and here we are. 6 months later, and there have been 5 major updates with a 6th one already in production, meaning there's been a lot that has changed since we last talked about it, so that begs the question, are we at the point to hop on the content bandwagon? Has the game gotten better? Is the game still alive? Well, stay tuned and find out. If you like what you see here today, hit that like and sub button or some shit. Also, if you plan on picking up the game, upgrading to a higher edition, or if there's some in-game cosmetic shop at the time you're watching this that takes creator codes, enter code bottomdweller to help support the show. Or don't. You do you. I'm not your mom. Let's kick this discussion off with a swift recap. Considering that it's been a while since I talked about the game, here's my thoughts from back then that still remain true now. The exploration in this game feels really good, mostly due in part to the sheer amount of surface and underground biomes you can encounter and the mini-structures with their own challenges and monsters. Everything in the game feels very responsive, and the way the game reacts to what I do makes it feel a lot more lively than other sandboxes I played. Like, look at that block, bounce when I hit it. Look at it. Looks pretty good. Block variety here is also insanely good, and the building table remains to be one of the best mechanics to ever grace sandbox games. Also, the music in this game, really good. Orchestral, but not overwhelming or distracting, which allows the music to complement a moment in the game instead of drown it out. The game also runs pretty damn well from my experience, seldom ever having a lag spike or connection issue. And I think that covers previously stated good things. If you want more, an in-depth discussion, I'd advise you go back to watch the first review. It's still pretty much relevant, except for maybe a couple details. Otherwise, let's just get to the new stuff. Hytale has had 5 updates since launch, giving it a loose update cadence of about an update every month and a half or less. However, it's worth noting that most of these updates happened soon after launch, and there was a sizable gap between update 4 and 5, which we'll discuss later. In order to trace our steps, I'm going to discuss all the major points of each update one at a time, starting with update 1. Update 1 brought dinosaurs and NPCs to the underground jungle. According to the devs, their behaviors are currently placeholders for the time being, but they were added to make the biome feel a little more lively, which is respectable. I would show you the footage of the dinosaurs running around, but I'm actually currently really busy prepping for a family member's wedding here soon, so I cannot do it, so here's an image. Wow. Look at that dinosaur. There was also a lot of really good quality of life changes, like areas beneath volcanoes actually having their respective biomes effects, livestock being no longer able to climb on top of chicken coops, which if you know from last video, was partially related to a problem I had. Backpacks were made more affordable for better progression feel, and the fix they announced as I was making the last review, torches can now be placed if they're in your offhand. Overall, a decent first update, but nothing I'd really write home about necessarily. That being said, I think we can all agree that making this update literally a couple weeks after the game's launch was a huge power move, which shows just how dedicated this team was to getting new content out to us, so that was really cool of them. Again, light update, but I respect it. Update 2, on the other hand, was a bit more noteworthy, adding necromancy, new cosmetic options, armor slot visibility so your cool character can still be seen, and changing the mining progression up to make sense. Before this, mining any ore would mine at pretty much the same speed and you weren't exactly required to get a mid-tier pick to get adamantite. That was changed entirely in Update 2, with every tier now mining the higher tier ores progressively slower, and adamantite now requires a cobalt or thorium pick to be mined, which creates a more solid sense of progression. Good job! They also changed some mobs to drop medium height instead of light height, which was, may I just say, much needed. It made no sense for a cow to be giving me a snake skin worth of hide. Magma toads finally got nerfed this update, alongside ores having their generation changed to be a little more common, especially in weird biomes like devastated lands. They fixed bed respawns from not working in unloaded chunks. Now you can truly base anywhere, which was a problem for a fat minute. Before this update came out, this issue sort of broke my heart a little bit, because before my computer, exploded and I had my old world, I built a really cool mountain for it, and then I kept respawning to the center of the world instead of the mountain. It was really bad. It was really bad. This is also around the time they started giving mod devs far more tools at their disposal, such as official documentation for World Gen V2, so mod devs could actually learn to use it easily. Overall, making Update 2 a pretty damn good update, with not only new content, but plenty of needed tweaking that allowed the game to feel even smoother to play. And then Update 3 went harder, introducing the early stages of animal taming, user-placed map markers, sickles which let you harvest multiple crops in one swing, a lot of climbing changes that made ropes actually good to use, grass spreading so blocks didn't stay dirt the whole time, avatar presets, finally, as well as fire spread and the Goblin Flamethrower. Yeah, I'm as surprised as you are. I didn't think Hytale was quite at Flabbenwerfer's stage of development, but, pop off, lads. Then we have the usual staples: new cosmetics, balance changes, like damage values actually making sense per tier, and necromancers no longer being able to damage their own minions, and vice versa. We also got some new environments in the further regions of the map, and the Tier 2 Furnace. So far, this update is already pretty damn good, but this was another update where they gave mod devs a new thing to use: proper mod management, allowing you to enable and disable things at will on saves, as well as added some validation measures for multiplayer. That probably doesn't sound like a big deal, but speaking as a person who touched the modding scene back before this update, this is a game changer. Then we head to Update 4. Update 4 did probably one of the more batshit insane things it could have done in one update. Over 500 new blocks were added. No, I'm not lying to you, that's not a bit or a goof. They added more than 500 blocks in one update. Half of them were for creative mode, but half of the amount were also brought to survival mode. I'm not even going to bother listing them all to you. If you're curious, you have the internet at your disposal. I'd just Google it. Needless to say, casually dropping 500 blocks like it was just an ordinary Tuesday is some crazy work. That's not all though, because this is the same update they dropped proximity chat, the emote wheel, and a new creative tool, Revolve, which allows you to place rotated copies of your build around a center point. Did you think that was it? No! Tiers 3 through 5 of the Alchemist bench were also added. The Farmer's bench had its total tier requirement reduced by 2. Workbenches were made to still work even in unloaded chunks. A lot of the new blocks were also added to world gen if it made sense, making the world, more visually stunning and interesting. They fixed roofs to now connect dynamically regardless of roof typing, fences connect better, and mod makers got even more quality of life changes, such as a new asset pack save location that doesn't autosave into the server prefabs, which means you can save work in progress stuff without forcing it into the server or manually having to move it. Every update they have done so far has been sizable, noteworthy, and good for the longevity of the game in many ways. That being said, we still got one more update, and while it's not my favorite of the updates, it's undeniably the most important one they've had, and the single best thing they could have done. Update 5. They added the friends list, which allows for easy invitation to your own world, joining theirs, and keeping in touch with people you meet in the game, something Minecraft Java wasn't even confirmed to be getting until sometime after this update dropped. And there's no telling that feature's even coming out considering the fact we still don't have the official shaders. Where's my shaders, Mojang? Listen, casual throwing shade at Mojang aside, I know they also recently added this friends list thing, and it's highly plausible they were working on it for years already, but I'm just saying Hytale's kind of making them look bad just because they announced it after they did it. After we asked for this feature for years. Moving along, we also got an official server browser system, which allows us to easily find servers to meet people on, as well as provides a rating system so you can see what servers are truly the best. I admittedly didn't spend too much time on servers, but considering the system already beats out having to find it on ad-riddled websites just to play online, this is undeniably a huge change. Sound also got revamped to make more sense with materials between you and the source of the sound. They also allow you to go back to previous versions of the game through the launcher already, which means older mod project support is already in. That all being said though, you might have noticed that there wasn't a lot of content this time around, and you're right. This update didn't have any substantial immediate gameplay additions to change every player's experience, which can be seen as a little disheartening by some. There was a 2-month gap between the previous update and this one, but that's the thing, it's only disheartening if you don't understand everything this update did. Because while, yes, we didn't get any major content pieces, this is currently the single best update mod devs, map makers, and server hosts have ever had. Map makers and server hosts were given the sweet tool known as trigger volumes. Trigger volumes allows server hosts and map makers to juice the hell out of their maps. Essentially, it allows you to define a space to wait for a triggered event of some kind, and once that event happens, it performs commands that you assign to the trigger. This means you can do cool lighting systems, effects, special effects, spawn monsters, damn near whatever you want to do involving a triggered effect on a set area, you can now do that. Even better is there's modding API available, so mod makers can also use this to create brand new events. This is huge! I'll leave a link to their demonstration video down below because I myself am not talented enough, nor do I currently have the time to experiment with it, but it's insane. In other games, something like this would actively take ages to add to any project, mostly because the game devs don't normally initially design systems around it. However, with Hytale having a larger focus on player-created content, having systems this approachable and open is monumental and helps with the longevity of the game's lifespan. I can already see people using this for custom dungeon raids and servers or more interactive tutorials. While the friends list and server browser is certainly huge in its own right, it's this feature that makes me deem this update as the single most important one they've made. Because this alone will give so much more creative freedom to aspiring creators, which is... it's just so cool. All that gushing aside though, it's time for us to move on from talking about additions and things I like and onto the list of things and concerns that caught my attention. So let's talk. Starting with problems that are still around, repair kits and the way durability works is still here, and my opinion on it hasn't changed. I genuinely think that repair kits should just be repurposed to just giving you a little bit of your durability at a time, and then letting us repair our tools at home. That way we can use the repair kits as a way for us to prolong our expeditions, and have a home method just to full repair and reset our journey. This problem isn't a game ruiner, I mean, clearly I'm still playing it, but it's a jarring design choice that is still left in, and I think it shouldn't be. Armor in its current state still feels pretty one-note right now, and the weapon types are still pretty much a pick-your-flavor of damage option, and roofs do feel a little better to build, but there's still some hitbox jank I'm not too thrilled about. Minecarts haven't gotten new rail types yet. That's literally it. I don't have anything else for that. I just want minecarts to be cool. That being said, there's a good chance the minecart issue gets fixed because they did hire a good chunk of the create team, so, you know, it's only a matter of time, but right now they're still kind of meh. Moving on to new problems, one of which being what I think will be a hot take, so stay tuned for that. Maybe I'm spoiled by playing a bunch of mod packs for Minecraft that has this feature, but we should have a slot for a belt lantern. The lantern itself is already kind of expensive to make early game, and you can just make the belt unlockable like the backpack, but adding a belt slot for a dedicated light source around you at all times would be pretty neat. Speaking of lighting, torches that you break after placing it with your offhand go straight into your inventory and not the offhand slot. I think it should just default to going into the offhand slot if there's torches in it. It only makes sense. I'm glad climbing ropes is better now, but now the issue is that placing ropes compared to ladders is significantly worse and should just do the Terraria thing where if you right-click on the rope from any segment with another rope, it just attaches to the bottom. Because otherwise, I have to awkwardly hit this tiny square hitbox of a rope end. Mobs also can't swim, so when hunting, sometimes the animal just decides that drowning is better than a swift end by my axe. Teleporters were fun initially, but now I kind of wish they were just fast travel points, because if I want to fast travel to all biomes, I have like 3 or 4 teleports outside my house and one in a specific biome, leaving a marker on the map at each biome, but then a cluster of them around my base on my minimap. I think it'd be best if we just had a waypoint system and then allow servers to determine if waypoints need to be discovered to be usable or not, just for keeping people's bases clean. I also ran into 3 new bugs that are really just minor inconveniences at best. One of those bugs is a bear I wanted to fight just clipped through the ground abruptly. Just whoop, gone. To the back rooms with it. That bear never showed up again. The other bug I ran into is I saw like my 20 plus gold magically changed to 3 for zero reason. Like no indication this was going to be a problem, it just did. Only to find out on the next real life day that it was randomly put in my backpack and not the furnace. And then I ran into an issue where I just abruptly crashed for walking along my own paved road. Don't know why it did this, it just did. It was lagging a couple times when I was trying to look at my inventory, but it hard crashed just for trying to open my inventory while walking. This only happened once, so I doubt this was the problem, but I found it interesting. And now onto the last problem, which is less an immediate issue and more just a noticeable one I've seen with the recent updates. It might also be the hottest take I have this entire video. Before I even start talking about it, I just want to say yes, I'm aware this game is in an early access state. I'm not coming at the game with the complaint I'm about to make with the idea that this game is finished. I'm actually making this statement because I know it's unfinished, and I think there's no better time than now to bring my issue to the forefront. That makes sense? Cool. Okay, here we go. While I do like the recent updates, and I do think the additions they've made have been incredibly cool and overall good, all the updates prior to Update 5 share a similar problem, and it's that the updates they've done haven't really expanded on the game's intended design. What is the game's intended design? Great question, I'm as lost as you are. Right now, the game hints off pretty strongly at the potential idea of the game revolving around adventure RPG mechanics and more in-depth progression systems, with work-in-progress signs in certain structures, the Forgotten Temple having multiple side buildings that are inaccessible, or the Cyclops Merchant that doesn't have anything yet, some items seemingly having special stats that haven't seen much elaboration. There's a number of hints here. However, that's the thing. They're hints, whiffs, suggestions, mild subliminal messaging. None of the updates have really expanded on the core game loop in any meaningful way yet. Like, yeah, we got necromancy and a flamethrower, but we haven't exactly got systems that favor using one over the other, and armor remains to be a pretty bog standard addition right now, and weapons don't really carry any identifiable differences aside from how the damage is dealt, and the armor and the weapons aren't really working with each other to create the idea of a classing system if there's meant to be one. Which, given we have magic, daggers, bows, crossbows, swords, shields, two-handed melee, and now summoning and guns, something tells me that this is supposed to be a thing eventually, and if it wasn't, I'm just gonna start questioning why we added new damage sources in 2 of the updates then. This many options for no reason would feel kind of silly in my opinion. There isn't like accessory slots or a leveling system in place to incentivize using a certain weapon over others, and mobs from my understanding all get damaged the same way with no damage type preferences, so swapping weapons isn't a requirement for optimization either. So we got 2 systems right now with no real backbone yet. The Forgotten Temple area has tons of cool buildings that all have work in progress signs around them, with the memory system implying there's supposed to be some major progression system that's not just armor based, but none of them have been added in yet. We have this cool dimensional portal system that has a timed sort of challenge event where you run through to get as much loot as possible and leave, and there's a bunch of monsters, and one of them even has a dragon. But the dragon's sleeping, and there's not really much of a reason to go into these places right now. Now, the dragon's planned to be a fight, but it's not at this time. And that's not to say that these features are, as they are, not fun, because they are fun, but it's just an observation I've made. The updates so far have been adding neat things, but the neat things they add haven't really expanded upon what the player is supposed to be doing as far as game progression goes. Granted, it's a sandbox game, so obviously building cool shit is a massive part of it, but we haven't received a proper expansion yet. Dinosaurs are cool and all, but if I don't really have much of a reason to seek out the underground jungle, I'm just not gonna go there, and that effectively means features being added early on are already being ignored, which isn't great. Now, does that mean the game is awful because it's not absolutely mag dumping its efforts into expanding upon mechanics? No, of course not. I'm also not asking for the devs to add in all the play mechanics all at once, because that would be a pretty goofy request. Instead, I'm asking the team of Hytale to take the time to expand upon the systems a bit with an update. Update 5 was super important, and I'm glad to have it. It needed to be here. The backend work was definitely required, and making multiplayer this accessible is going to keep the game breathing for a very long time. But now is a good time to focus more on the fundamentals you want your game to be built upon. Whether that's RPG mechanics, bosses, new armor sets, or whatever else you had planned, something needs to be given to the players before year 1 of development is done. And who knows, maybe the chapter update that was, teased by Simon will actually have one of these mechanics. I have no idea, because, I'm not a dev. I wouldn't know. I am excited to see what that update entails, though. However, I've run out of things to talk about here, so if you have any thoughts of your own and counterpoints, put it in the comment down below and I may or may not read it. There's a lot of you now, so it's a little hard to read it all. Let's wrap this up with my overall thoughts. Despite the cons I brought up, some of which are still lingering around right now, I still highly recommend this game for its current price tag. While it's certainly pretty early on in its development cycle, the past 6 months have only further emboldened my stance on the game, and it only makes that $20 price tag for the standard edition that much more worth it. Is it in a state where I'll make more consistent content on it yet? Not yet. I think it needs a little more time before I put my cards in the scene. That being said, the modding scene has gotten significantly larger and more robust, but it's not quite in a state that has snagged my interest right yet. I think that when I come back to talk about this game in the inevitable 1 year later follow-up video, there's a higher chance I'll be more active around that point, but only time will tell on that. But that's enough yapping from me. If you like what you saw here today, you know what to do. This has been the Bottom Dweller, bringing you videos you didn't ask for.